Okay. Hi, and welcome to In the Field, a series of short interviews with musicians and artists living in the San Francisco Bay Area. Today I'm talking with Derek from Headboggle, who will be performing at the Outsound New Music Summit on July 24th at the Community Music Center in San Francisco. So welcome, and thanks for spending some time talking with me.
Yeah, thanks, Ron.
I wanted to ask you the basic question I've been asking all the artists who are performing on the summit this year. What are your most memorable or a memorable moment in your early life that drew you to music and sound?
Well, I've been playing piano, I guess. Well, I started playing piano 32 years ago when I was 5, so that was like the first big moment along my musical path. Probably the second would be, because I studied classical piano, I studied ragtime piano, and as I got into listening to punk rock and more outside type stuff, my piano lessons took a dive, and I think that was another sort of interesting fork in the road where I expanded my musical horizons, so to speak. And then maybe the next big marker would be going off to college and being a college DJ, having access to really everything that's out there.
Okay.
So again, broadening my base and my sort of, I have this real sort of drive to hear what influenced, music and what influenced that, and what, the whole historical tree and tracing everything back. So that's been always like a big thing for me. So. Did
you have early experiences as a child with your family, or was this something that you just kind of fell into?
Well, for sure, when I was 5, I remember sitting in like a '77 Toyota Celica, and it's like, you're gonna play piano, does that sound good? And I didn't really have a choice technically, realistically in the matter. So my parents, they pushed me into piano.
Right.
My mother's interesting because I don't think she listens to music at all for entertainment.
Okay.
So her record collection's a couple records, a Dionne Warwick album, and John Denver. And my dad is a huge jazz bebop collector. He's also like a bluegrass player, so he's a real musician.
Right.
But he didn't come into play until maybe my teenage years when he taught me how to play guitar, and as I moved away from piano.
So you play guitar too? And
I guess, everything outside of piano is just me fumbling around trying to pick up an instrument.
Okay.
So, and often, for me, that's the most interesting thing to listen to, is someone who is not technically trained or is trying to unlearn something that's quote unquote musical. So.
Right. Was there a time in your life when there was a moment of sparking where you thought, oh, this is really what I want to do. Like, I really want to do this music, or I want to play music like that. Or do you remember any moments in time when that?
Well, I have the real common sort of dream, the teenage dream of our high school punk rock band's going to make it. So there were different phases when I had, a punk rock band in high school, or a college art rock band in college, So different, very normal phases that I went through. And I think more of my drive in record collecting has really led me down these paths of experimentation with instruments. So over time, I, listening to modern classical, couldn't put my head around how it's created, because technically I'm still kind of back at 8th year piano.
Okay.
So a lot of the moves I've made are just sort of intuitive, where like, oh, I'm interested in this kind of out sound, or improvisational music. I don't know how to do it, and then eventually I sort of found my way into it or beside it.
Well, that leads me to one of my questions is, what was it that brought you out of, playing, this is what I've asked other folks, that playing genres, like classical or bluegrass or punk rock, and what was it that really brought you to experiencing or want to experience outside of the normal, realm?
Well, it would definitely be the very nurturing Bay Area experimental noise scene. And I got to say, a lot of it, for me, revolves around the scene that, you could just really call it Noise Pancakes. It's a certain curator
Okay.
who does a series of shows.
Sure.
A lot of the experimental / noise musicians get their start at these shows. So
Uh-huh.
for sure, that was sort of my way into the underground scene here. You know, I've been out here about 10, 12 years. Moved here from Ohio, Michigan. So
Okay.
breaking into that sort of subset, you know, also the series that you know, Luggage Store does too, but
Yeah.
you know, the Noise Pancake series of shows, everything that fell under that sort of
Was it
umbrella.
somebody that you had met that told you about that, or that you
No,
heard
I
play?
think that's
or?
just from, you know, spotting flyers around town and just
Okay.
trying to check out shows. So,
Right. Right. And being that you had worked in I guess the some call it the indie, you know, San Francisco scene,
Right.
the underground scene,
Right.
the indie rock world, you would be more on the lookout for that kind of stuff. Where you'd have a
yeah,
mind for
yeah,
that.
exactly,
Yeah.
right.
Right.
And you know, all along going to these modern shows at Mills, improv jazz shows, but I think
Mhm.
really the noise shows offered more of a welcoming in, like, hey, you can do this too, you can participate or help
Sure.
out.
Right.
Whereas, you know, some of the 23.5, some of the more highbrow stuff seem interesting enough to listen to, but maybe
Right.
inaccessible as far as
Oh, I see. Yeah.
entering into helping with that scene or entering into
Right,
that scene
feeling
through that
comfortable to be able
direction.
to talk to
Right,
people. And,
so-
right, exactly. Okay, great. So you're going to be performing at the 9th Annual New Music Summit and at the Community Music Center, and that on the closing night, July 24th.
Right?
Can you tell folks generally what you may be doing, or what someone who's never heard you play, what they may have an inkling to expect, or do you have a plan or of any kind?
Yeah, well, you know, the material under the Headboggle moniker is mostly, it's kind of a straight mix. It's I usually prepare a backing, which I spend a lot of time on, many hours,
Mhm.
and then I bring that to the performance and usually play improv over that, essentially. So I'll
Okay.
bring analog synth, or
Right.
I think we talked about maybe using the space, the piano that's there, or
Right.
something that's there. So
Right.
that's generally it, and I'm still kind of working up special ideas for it, but that's the basic framework for the shows. I bring in field recordings and home recordings that are carefully constructed as a backing, and then I perform over
Right.
that.
Okay, great. Well, I look forward to your performance, and hope that people come out and hear Headboggle. And thank you very much for listening, and we'll catch you on the next show.